around here somewhere.
Call of Cthulhu has been a game that I've been somewhat interested in because I do have a fascination with Lovecraftian horror. Now, I don't know exactly how much the game would delve into that. I would hope so from the name, but I literally don't know anything about it, apart from the one stream that Cashew did a while back. Regardless though, this one is Dark Corners of the Earth. I do know there's another game just simply called Call of Cthulhu, so I would assume this would be a sequel. However, this one was made first, at least when according to Mandalore's review here. So hopefully I'm watching this in the right order, but if not, then I guess we can just use the info that we gather here and retroactively think back to the other one. But anyways, dudes, as per usual, please go and support Mandalore. Link to that is at the very top of the description, like always. Just a regular
With
day in
Halloween
New
right
York.
around the corner, I thought it'd be a good time to look back at Call of Cthulhu, a game known for scary monsters and scary bugs. It's an Amazonian rainforest of bugs, which is enough to divide opinions on it.
Perfect.
Some will say it's one of the greatest horror games ever, and some can't get past the broken boat section. Off the top of my head before replaying...
Why does it feel like these older, broken-ass games that don't work properly half the time are usually the really damn good ones? You could probably put Fallout New Vegas in this category. I hesitate to put Knights of the Old Republic here. You could probably put KOTOR 2 here though. But regardless of whatever downsides may come from those, just the basis of the game and the gameplay, it's just so damn good. And prior to hearing it from Mandalore here, I didn't know that this game had that sort of reputation around it. I just heard of it, and it was like, oh, Cthulhu, yeah, maybe I'll check that out someday.
I could remember 4 separate areas that either had a game-breaking crash or a bug that prevented you from beating it. The last time I played it was in 2011 on Windows XP, so things had probably only gotten worse. The Steam version had several crashes in the first level, so yeah, things had gotten worse. I didn't need to be a yith to see that coming. However, GOG has a version that claims to fix most of the issues, and yeah, it does. You don't need to tweak the game like crazy to make it functional, so that's a good start. So is it now a great game?
So why does GOG have a different version from what Steam has? Do they, in particular, just have a build made by the community or by them, or how does that work? You good, bro?
Let's begin. Right from the get-go, there's not a lot to fiddle with. The only video option is choosing your brightness, and your difficulty is locked to either easy or normal. It's one of those games where you have to beat it to unlock a harder difficulty, and I really hate that. Only the hard drive says I've never played this. Even if I was new, if I want to be eaten by fish, that should be my right to choose. Looking back, the Dead Space games did that too, so maybe I should have complained about it then. Our story begins...
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Having the difficulty options locked behind having to beat the entire game one time at least feels pretty bad, and I don't usually have the motivation to replay the entire game again, especially not on a higher difficulty, unless if I absolutely love it. But it's weird that sometimes whenever a game has those options, even though I never really select them, I feel more inclined to replay the game on those options, as opposed to games that lock out those options for you and then unlock them afterwards. Maybe I'm just a very petty person. I just want to spite the developers and be like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't think they really care because I already paid for the game, but there's just something about it, you know?
In Rocksteady's Arkham Asylum in 1922. One of the prisoners is fed up with crazy cuisine and decides to end it right there. With all the symbols written in blood on the walls, it's a pretty good setup for a mystery. Then they pull the chair out from under you and surprise, that was a flash forward. The main character is the one who hangs himself later. Why did he do it? Can you save him? Well, this is only the prologue, and the main portion of the game takes place right before the hanging, so you'll have some answers. Despite the game being set in the early 1900s, most of the dialogue sounds like it's out of the 50s. The first information you get sounds like a Twilight Zone episode.
Robert, this had better be good. What's the beef?
Sorry, Jack. We had to call. This fellow will only talk to you. Name's Victor Holt.
Don't know any Victor.
He's the leader of this weird cult that moved in here a few months back. Got about 20 followers.
Nice.
They've been causing trouble all over town. Stealing, going
big
through
numbers.
folks' trash. Hanging around outside people's homes at all hours. No one ever presses charges, though. They're a screwy bunch. They've got the locals scared. So tonight, We were just passing, you know, doing the normal rounds.
The investigation of the cult is reminiscent of a point-and-click adventure game. You're not there to murder everyone, you're there to find out what's going on. You search around for clues and evidence, and even have a handy collection of notes. You're playing as Detective Jack Walters, and the game does a good job of putting you in the mindset of his occupation. The action button isn't just for physically interacting with the environment. You can use it for Jack to give his thoughts on nearly any object he comes across.
This blasphemous image makes me feel uneasy. It's the main ventilation system. The lockers are empty. His chest cavity has been spread open for feeding. Seems like these cabinets are used for storing chemicals and medical
What was that other one? In short, there's something
I kind of love video games where the main character has something to say about basically everything in the world. Most of it is just filler and silly nonsense. And I always wonder why. I don't personally have thoughts about every single thing, even in my room. The best I could come up with is like, oh yeah, that's that. It's a thing. But I guess similarly to how Soma did it, where you learn more about your character by exploring and finding some little knickknacks here and there within the room. It kind of has that same charm to it, although not really to that degree.
a little more unusual about the cult than a cult being a cult. For one, the cult has been obsessively stalking Jack. There's the machinery in their basement, which I doubt is approved by the FDA.
His internal organs have been removed and spread across the room. This insane contraption looks like it's keeping him alive.
Then there's
I love the nonchalant commentary about it. His organs have been spread throughout the room. This machine looks like it's keeping him alive. That would definitely be my reaction seeing something like that.
the other machinery. This one opens a portal to another dimension, causing strange creatures to emerge. He's understandably not well after this encounter and goes to an asylum
Probably
for 6
not good.
years. Jack's
Yeah.
perceptions of time have been strangely distorted ever since, and he's become a private investigator. He gets a case for a missing person in Innsmouth, Massachusetts, and that's where the game's main plot kicks off. To no surprise for those who read the title, this is based on H.P. Lovecraft's work. However, it's not adapting the short story Call of Cthulhu, but rather The Shadow over Innsmouth. This story is also shadowed by another shadow, but that'll come later. The good news is you don't have to be familiar with Lovecraft.
Yeah, I do like Lovecraftian stuff, but I'm not like super into it and well researched. Like I haven't read any of these stories before. I'm simply familiar with the concept and I find it fascinating.
Craft's work to enjoy the story. It's only a few particulars later that can leave you confused if you don't know a thing, and that's okay. It's a theme to feel woozy. So now that you have that bit of background, let's talk about the visuals. On a technical level, I'd say it's about average for back then. A lot of the environment lighting is nice looking, but there's nothing mind-blowing about it. This game came out first on the Xbox, so it's basically a console port. Some textures look muddy and some areas of the game look way older than the rest, but the main thing that sticks out is the filter. In most scenes, it's making the game look muddled and worse than it is. However, when there are scenes with a monster, then it obscures them a bit, making them a little bit more scary. That could justify it. But the game also has a sanity system. When your character sees something unsettling or a fear like heights, the screen will start to blur and defocus. I don't mean a little blurry, like happy tears. It's more like drowning in a pool of Vaseline with Parkinson's. So when the screen can already be warped and distorted to pretty extreme degrees.
What the hell am I looking at? The entire world is turned into jello. These are some pretty intense effects. Maybe we're going a little bit too overboard with it.
That seems unnecessary to have a filter on top of it. It only serves to make the regular scenes fuzzy. I know it's a matter of personal tastes, I just wish it was an option to turn on and off. I prefer when games aren't trying to look like movies. Despite their limitations, the art direction is superb. It may sound strange, but something about the game being uglier makes it a little creepier too. For me, it's an uncanny valley. It's not ugly enough to look like an old game, but not quite new enough to look like a realistic newer game. It's an almost dreamlike quality at times. There's this oppressive feeling to the atmosphere that never goes away.
I wonder if that was an intentional art choice, or if that was simply a happy little accident. I can see what Mandalore is talking about here though, with the game being kind of right in between those two different eras of graphical fidelity.
Everything is shrouded in darkness, but not too dark like Doom 3. If you've never played Doom 3, just turn off all your lights, then put a pet in the closet, and keep opening the closet so it jumps out at you, and that's Doom 3. Anyways, look at this creepy factory. Look at the town of Innsmouth. The skybox is almost real looking, but not quite. Maybe it's because of the grain filter, I just don't know. The sound design can be a lot of fun, like hearing cult worshippers. Then sometimes it makes me never want to open a door. There's one part where
There's only good things behind that door. And I was wondering, like, what the graphics reminded me of. It very much looks like Thief to me, although it's a slightly different style, but very reminiscent, and understandably so, considering they're going for similar themes, because I would very much consider Thief to also be a horror game. So, yeah, pretty adjacent.
you go into a house when you know something awful is upstairs and it's all carried through the sound.
Hello there, little lady.
Hi, sir.
Are your parents at home?
Daddy's at work and Mommy's upstairs in the attic. She's been bad.
I see. What are you drawing, Ramona?
Pictures of Mommy and Daddy.
Oh boy. Ma'am?
The weapon sounds are alright too, but
Oh, come on, Mandalore. That jump cut was criminal. At least let me live the jump scare.
nothing compared to the environmental ones. Even on GOG, the game has an issue where sometimes character voices will cut off at the very end. I found out that if you don't save in the same slot twice in a row, that usually fixes it, and I don't know why, but it works. This really is a game full of mysteries. It's hard to even talk about the gameplay since it feels like it was directed by 4 or 5 different people. This was once being developed as a 4-player non-linear RPG. When it got closer to release, the game nearly had deathmatch maps, so there's a lot of different direction. I'm gonna talk about the game.
That's maybe putting it mildly. What kind of world would we live in if Call of Cthulhu was a 4-player deathmatch?
Game in sections, avoiding major spoilers. While it's not a different game every chapter, things do get shifted around a lot. The prologue gave the impression that Call of Cthulhu would be an adventure game, and the first chapter holds that up. Investigate the town of Innsmouth.
Could you direct me to the First National Grocery Store? I hear they have a shop in town.
I don't know nothing about that.
Oh, well, you see, I'm looking for a young lad called Brian Burnham. I'm a friend of the family. He worked in the store.
Don't know who you're talking about, fella.
Innsmouth is incredible.
Do you know the Burnham lad? He worked...
Please, stop bothering me, stranger.
Whether or not you know the
Everybody's so
backstory,
nice.
just exploring through the town is an experience. There's something so obviously wrong with the town, and if you look hard enough, you'll find peaks of things to come. Even though the town is populated, it gives me the same feeling the first time I played Silent Hill. There's something out to get you. Jack starts having visions through the eyes.
I'm assuming Mandalore is speaking of the very first Silent Hill when he refers to Silent Hill here. I only ever played Silent Hill F, and I guess it gave that feeling during like the beginning section. Although I felt like it dragged on for a bit too long. For that dread to really stick with me and leave a good lasting impression. So I hope the older games did it better. Or hell, even the Silent Hill 2 remake hopefully still captured that sort of same essence.
Of something. They don't move or sound human. If you look around, you'll catch glimpses of people watching you from the shadows. From time to time, you'll wonder if you saw something at all. No music stinger, it just happens.
Since old Lady Warren's passed away, the food is
What the
rotten.
fuck?
While you investigate, most of
What was that? What in the hell is that? Is that you, Serby? But I actually kind of appreciate how there isn't a music stinger, because it makes you second guess yourself as to, did I really see that out of the corner of my eye? Like, what did I just witness? As opposed to the whole confirmation of, yes, this is a moment that you should be scary. It's basically the equivalent of a laugh track, like a sign saying, this is the moment that you're supposed to laugh for horror games, where it's like, this is the moment you should be scared. That being said, I want to cover my bases here. Obviously, there's got to be a more nuanced take to this where it can also be used to enhance a certain scare as well. Take, for example, the Amnesia monster, right? Where that music has become so iconic, and it really just sets off alarm bells within your head. It just makes it much more effective than if it just silently prowled after you.
The food is rotten.
While you investigate, most of the townspeople are very little help to you.
Do you know the Burnham lad?
No.
He worked in the First National.
Damn rightly says I know him. Innsmouth don't take too kindly to them from out of town. Get lost, stranger. Damn rightly says I know him.
The old woman's dead. Do you need any help?
Progression is very
Bro, I forget which episode of JoJo's Part 3 this was, but for those of you who have seen JoJo's, you guys remember the whole town that they went into, covered by fog? I think that was the episode where they fought the old lady's stand, and she had like a fog stand that was controlling everybody. It's giving me off that same feeling, or even, was it the fishing village from Berserk? There's just something slightly off about all the people here. And I know this is like a completely crazy out there theory, but I think it might have something to do with Lovecraftian monsters.
linear, but it does give the sense of uncovering a mystery. You learn about some of the people inhabiting the town and how life works there. You learn to use stealth while looking for evidence. The more you look, the more you find, and the town is getting more and more aggravated with you. When it finally does reach a boiling point, you have no weapons, you can only move furniture and lock doors. So now you're being hunted, but you still have to figure out the mystery of what happened to the missing person.
Bruh.
Doesn't that premise sound great? Sneaking through a weird town that's now openly hostile, trying to put the last pieces of evidence together. Well, this is where the first cracks in the game start to show. At first, everything seems on track. Because the game has no heads-up display, there's no kind of detection meter or something like that. You listen for audio callouts, lean around corners, watch for patrols. You're so vulnerable, and it's more and more apparent there are non-human things getting closer and closer to you.
I wonder how good the audio for this game is, because I can certainly see a scenario like this working out pretty well for a game like Thief, because it has such good feedback. But we haven't really touched upon the audio at all yet in this review. And I think, didn't Thief also have that meter that also told you like how much noise you were making? Or maybe I'm mixing that up with another game. Regardless though, I don't think any game out there really does stealth like Thief did, which is really unfortunate. But I suppose if it's passable and has a good story, and I mean, this game is considered good, at least, I think. Like Mandalore said here at the beginning, some people consider it one of the best horror games out there, and other times it just straight up doesn't work, and I have heard a few mixed things here and there.
Getting more and more strange visions, everything's just going off the rails. Then at some point, inevitably, you find out about the AI.
It just doesn't
Did you hear
work.
that? Who's there?
Oh man. Yep, far more A than I. Aww. That's really unfortunate, because then the whole illusion that we've created here of this heavy stealth gameplay, trying to figure out the mystery while trying to survive and escape the townsfolk, just really falls apart. And I believe Mandalore had a similar complaint when it came to Soma, simply because getting caught by the monsters in Soma didn't really mean anything, so they were kind of just there. Although, at the very least, the AI in Soma did work. Here, obviously, not so much. And unfortunately, because of this, it really does ruin a lot of the tension that you might have felt going through these sections. It's funny, because when I first played through Soma, I was kind of under that same illusion basically the entire playthrough, that like getting caught by the monsters was bad news bears. And I had made it pretty far before we got caught for the first time. But even then, for some reason, the tension was still pretty high for me. Probably because it was like one of the first few horror experiences I had, and I think the immersive aspect of the game was so high that it didn't really matter to me. I still felt the tension.
Then you get guns.
Kill him! He's around here somewhere.
A pistol and a shotgun, at last.
Widen the search.
What?
Shoot him!
It's bad. It's not the worst I've ever seen in a game, but it's certainly up there. In particular, it doesn't really understand stealth. If you shoot an enemy from stealth, half the time they'll start screaming like you're fighting them, but they'll keep doing whatever they were doing. On other occasions, they'll just freeze up completely and not do anything at all.
Damn, okay. This was probably a group of developers that had an idea. Well, obviously we had also many different directors here too, so the identity of the game itself was quite unclear. But maybe we just didn't really have the expertise or the tech to really pull this off. I mean, Thief did, but Thief is kind of centered around that, and from what I've learned of Looking Glass back in the day, they were kind of just built different. It's even more unfortunate here for this game because the AI being bad isn't just dragging down the gameplay, it's actively funny, which, you know, there can be humor in horror. Obviously, you need those moments to relieve some tension, but usually you want that to be intentional as opposed to, you know, all the time. Like, imagine if in the It movie, Pennywise was about to grab one of the kids and then he started, I don't know, just running into a wall or something for no apparent reason. I don't think he'd be as scary as he is if that ever happened.
First I thought maybe they were programmed for smaller areas and these wide open ones are messing them up somehow, but no. They're just a lot worse in open spaces. Even in the enclosed ones, they're still pretty horrendous. You might think it's difficulty, but no, that doesn't affect their AI. Even if it did, you'd be stuck with it anyhow. It's disappointing. You also can't choose to just not use weapons, it's unavoidable. Combat becomes more and more of a focus in later levels. Even the creepy town can't avoid it. There's a driving defense section, swarms of enemies section, and don't even get me started on the warehouse.
Whoa, double kill. Nice.
This isn't satisfying combat either. Even if the AI was better, the balance is all off. You would think in a game like this they might make the ammo harder to find. Have the guns be a last resort measure.
No,
if you
they're
explore
abundant.
around, you will find extra
Assuming.
ammo and supplies. But ultimately
Just
it's unnecessary
randomly?
because I never had a time where I was out of ammo. You have so many types of ammunition that it's nearly impossible to run out. The game has to be
I
this
see.
way too because you need ammo to get past the mandatory combat sections. There are melee weapons and I only found them useful a single time. I think they're supposed to be used for stealth attacks that are quieter, but they're too unreliable for that. In most cases, you'd have to go out of your way for a stealth melee kill and using a gun would just be more efficient and easier. Remember that the AI is prone.
Is this Devil May Cry 2? No, wait, I'm sorry, that game doesn't exist. Okay, now, this is probably where my lack of experience with horror games of this particular genre will fail me, because I always felt like whenever a horror game gave you a weapon and the ability to fight back, I am literally not scared anymore. Those games just really don't do it for me, at least from the playthroughs of the similar games that I've watched before and here on YouTube. Although, of course, if you have moments where all of your weapons are taken away and then you have to figure out a way to deal with monstrosities or simply just have to run and escape from them, that can be an effective scare. Or what was that, like, isometric horror game from Mandalore that I had watched? Was it like Bone Totem or something along those lines? It was like in a sci-fi spaceship sort of thing, where they had given you a gun and there wasn't any combat in the game, but you just had it. So you were constantly expecting to run into enemies where you would have to use combat. I thought that was kind of brilliant, not gonna lie. Such a simple thing that still kept the player's tension up because you gotta put it on yourself. You created your own scenarios in your head, which is what effective horror media does. But yeah, I mean, so far the game seems to have a lot of issues, even though it has a pretty intriguing premise. So I'm really waiting to see why this game is still considered like a really damn good horror game by some people.
To not even care about gunshots. Even more disjointed is the healing system for the game, which they do try to do something interesting with. Picking up a medkit doesn't just give you health, it gives you a bunch of healing supplies. Then you go to a menu that has a Metal Gear Solid 3-like healing system. You choose where to apply each healing item for a specific body part. Once you've picked which parts need healing with what items, you go into a cutscene healing mode. The animation even changes based on where you're hurt. It's a neat idea. In theory, you have to slink off somewhere safe before you heal. But you can't do that when there are swarms of enemies that you have to fight. Some damage can cause bleeding, which means you can bleed out and die. So if you're in the middle of combat, you're basically stuck. Heal before you bleed out, or try and kill them before. Optionally, you can press H to automatically heal and avoid the menu entirely. See what I mean about cracks appearing? You have a healing system clearly made for a slower...
Yeah, I was like, oh, I see. So it's for, yeah, the slower gameplay, having to strategically plan out your fights to close things out quicker in order to heal wounds that may be lethal. And then you just have a button that just does everything for you anyways. It's like, so then why did we have this system? I don't know. Probably a remnant from having so many different identities.
A more methodical game, but the game's not like that. Sure, it starts that way, but it just keeps collapsing more and more. Case in point, after the town you raid a refinery. The bad guy's been hoarding gold, evidence, and messing with Halloween candy. Unlike Innsmouth, the wandering enemies respawn. The cramped hallways mean that stealth is even less of an option now. So after some dramatic events, you end up barely escaping from a monster beyond the colors of time. There's an escape sequence and it's all framed like you barely got out alive. Then you just get sent back inside to do a puzzle for 20 minutes. Maybe we should have done this before the big escape sequence. I went from running from Gravemind to platforming on him. That diminishes the threat of it.
Running from the Gravemind to platforming on him. I don't think the Gravemind would appreciate that at all. Oh, yeah, it's such a different tone. But maybe that's just how it was back in the day. Because, I mean, even look at Devil May Cry 1, where you have these super action-packed scenes all the way leading up to the final boss that turns out to be a shoot-'em-up game. And then even when you escape the island, you just gotta like fly a plane and avoid the obstacles. Like, what the hell am I playing? I thought I was playing Devil May Cry. Oh god, I hope I never have to experience anything like that ever again from the Devil May Cry series. But now that makes me wonder, like, it felt natural actually between the shifting of the different gameplay types when I was playing something like Nier Automata, because Automata also had those sort of like side-scrolling sections, the shoot-'em-up sections, and then obviously the character action sections. And you can swap in and out of either of those at basically any time during the gameplay, and it felt really natural to do so. So why does it work for Automata? I'm sure someone much smarter than I am can probably come up with a million reasons as to why it works so much better there. But just off the top of my head, I feel like it's because that game had started off with a shoot-'em-up section and then transitioned into all the other sections that you would end up playing throughout the course of the game, so it set that sort of expectation for you already. Whereas here in Call of Cthulhu, we come into a horror game expecting a certain thing, and then it kind of plays out that way during the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's not that anymore. Or like with Devil May Cry, where we had never had a section like that ever throughout the entirety of the game. Until the final boss.
Then the next chapter's pacing is all over the place. You run in with the Marine Corps to fight the bad fish. Then they go, oh yeah, it's a horror game, but now it's an FPS game again. Now it's an adventure game again. The elements just aren't meshing together, and the next chapter truly goes off the deep end. The entire game has been teasing the Deep One creatures. You've only caught glimpses of them. Now they're revealed.
Gets gunned down.
We're under attack.
Oh man, makes me think of Fallout New Vegas. What was it? Oh, the bear and the bull and the bull and the bear. I forget the name of that DLC. Oh, Lonely Road, something like that. But throughout the entirety of that, they have all these dialogues talking about these creatures that if they ever got out, they would destroy all of humanity. And then when you run into them, they're like tiny little mole people that you gun down just like the rest of them. They do a lot of damage for sure, but they are not as scary looking as Deathclaws. And it's really hard to sell that fact even during the section where they had a Deathclaw fight them and lose and kind of get like absolutely destroyed and dragged away by them. It was just not scary.
Some guy just guns two down in a cutscene, and then you start gunning them down in waves. This thing they were teasing all game is now part of a wave section. Remember when I said this game feels like it was directed by several different people? This is what I'm talking about. The pacing of the game doesn't line up with other parts.
See it.
Not just tonally. This part is more difficult than the final boss battle, which is very similar. There's one part where you have to walk on an ocean cliff and hold a ring to brace for the waves. Except you don't. They didn't actually put the feature in properly, so you can just walk along the cliffs just fine. The game has so many neat ideas, but it's like they keep being partially implemented. Call of Cthulhu was being developed as an adventure horror game. It sure feels like it at the start and even a few parts throughout. It was being developed for 6 years, but for the final two, they had to make a change. Their publisher was taken over by a new one who didn't want to develop the title, so they had to find a new one. And so they found one in Bethesda Softworks as ZeniMax company. Oh, my throat. It's very clear that there were people with a...
Isn't it strange that whatever Bethesda touches just it changes? Now, to be fair, I think Bethesda also publishes Doom, was it? Developed by id Software. And, I mean, that game is pretty darn good. And God knows how many hours you guys have put into Skyrim. I played a little bit of it myself back in the day. But then, obviously, you have your other situations that are pretty abundant when it comes to Bethesda, where it's like, The devs didn't have enough time, so we just let them release the game in this unfinished and broken state that we'll fix it up later. Or maybe never. We'll just let the modding community handle all of this.
Vision. Along the way, there was a dramatic change and the game was being pushed into something that it wasn't designed to be. The stuff that's good is really good, so much so that it sticks out in people's memories more than the rest of the game, I think. When people call it an overlooked classic, I think they forget most of the parts that made it really bad. It was an incredible game. It was like Innsmouth was brought to life and then,
You know, that's actually fair enough. There are certain games that I love, and I know that they're not perfect, but I don't remember the sections that I hated about them vividly. All I remember is the sections that I loved about them. I love Twilight Princess, right? That's like my favorite Zelda game. Now granted, I am extremely biased because that's the only Zelda game that I played. Every other one I've just watched playthroughs of. But I'm almost certain that I hated the Water Temple, but I don't remember the Water Temple. So it doesn't even cloud my perception of the game, even though I'm fairly certain it would. But even so, I still think that we can appreciate those games despite their flaws. Was it the second Thief game or the third one that had that really creepy level in the, was it an asylum or an orphanage or something like that? It was phenomenal, despite the rest of the game not really living up to the Thief name.
there was a Shoggoth. It's a testament to just how well some of these parts were done when everything else could just be collectively forgotten by so many people. So with that, the only thing left to talk about really is the story. Before getting into spoilers, there's one thing that I think needs to be cleared up. This game ambushes you with a ranking system at the very end. To get an A requires you to beat the first part of the game in a certain time limit with a certain number of saves, and also you have to collect everything in the game. If you didn't give a crazy man a dead rat, you're not getting an A. Why this matters is that it extends the ending of the game. It doesn't change the ending, it just explains more about what happened. So if you beat it without an A, a lot of the game will still be out of context. So if you want to skip those spoilers,
that's frustrating. I'm glad I didn't play through the game blind.
You missed out on this cool lightning gun. Even earlier in the story, if you don't know Lovecraft lore, there's a few things here and there that might throw you off. Jack has a vision of a creature, which is a yith, talking about pursuing enemies that left tracks with 5 toes. That sounds like it means either humans or deep ones, but it's neither. It's the flying polyps, which you encounter 2 of. Bits like that throughout the story can make the ending even more confusing for people. Even though you murdered Hydra and Dagon, the ending still seems to imply that the deep ones are a threat, but they're still talking about the flying polyps. The game even shows their model and talks about them harnessing the power of the wind, so I guess players missed that part. It's probably because they're the main focus of all these cutscenes, but you only fight 2 of them in the game and your main enemies are Hydra, Dagon, and all the deep ones, so I can see how that throws people off. It's then revealed that Jack's father
Well, don't you just love it when a video game tells you that these are the most fearful beings, you should be afraid of them, without ever giving you the chance to experience why you should fear them? I given the example earlier for Fallout New Vegas where, I mean, you did actually fight them, but they just weren't really that scary. I definitely think here they should have established the threat more concretely within the player's mind. But I mean, it's not really the biggest issue that this game has. And I think this is also kind of the issue that people have with, what were they called? The Infinites in Halo Infinite? The new race that they introduced that is like more powerful than the Flood and they can survive the Halo rings and whatnot. But I don't really think that's been established in players' minds, which is why there's so much discontent with their introduction into the series. It just ends up feeling like a cheap way to raise the stakes, essentially.
switched minds with the Yithian before he was conceived, and Jack is half Yithian. Something like that. It's also why the cult in the beginning was so obsessed with him. They knew. When he activated the machine in the beginning, Jack's mind went to their world, hence the monster visions and amnesia. So while he does kill himself in both endings, one is missing a lot of context. He killed himself because his mind was being ripped between 2 worlds, not because he was being spooked by all the fish people. I think it's a neat twist to have in this story. If you don't have it, you just feel more confused, which is normal for Lovecraft, and if you do, then you understand it a bit more. Get off my boat. In a lot of videos they'll say that a game is flawed, but you should try it out for what's good about it, but in Call of Cthulhu's case, I'm not so sure about that. There's so much exceptional material that sticks with you, but everything else is just such a slog. Combine that with how many technical hiccups the game has, you might end up jumping through a lot of hoops for something that's okay. This is a game that would really benefit from a remaster, or even a recut of the existing content. I know there's another Call of Cthulhu game coming out, so maybe that one will do more things right.
Okay, yeah, then I'm really excited to see the next review from Mandalore. It was probably that one that I heard the good things about.
It stands, Dark Corners of the Earth is a very flawed game that could have been an exceptional classic. It might be worth checking out if you're really into the source material, the atmosphere, or want to see a guy who fell off Jacob's ladder. It's a story that really wouldn't work in a modern setting. So if you have an exceptional level of patience, it might be worth looking into. The time jumps can get a little confusing.
Hey, pathologic.
Wait, this isn't right. I can't record in this. Yeah,
Been there before. We just gotta listen to the construction in the background the entire time. The way he looked at us. But yeah, I've been there before. If you guys ever wonder, like, oh, what is Zero doing? There's been like this 3 or 4 day gap in between videos. That's because for whatever damn reason, my neighbors, whenever they come back to this vacation house of theirs, it takes them like a whole 3 to 4 full days from morning to night to cut all the grass. And it is so damn loud. I can't even record without there just being like that hum in the background. But I mean, it only happens like every now and then, so it's fine. But yeah, witnessed yet another classic tale of a video game with some really good ideas. Not the greatest execution out there, but you can see those good ideas kind of peeking out here and there, which just makes me more excited to see what the Call of Cthulhu remaster thing that came out is going to be like. So yeah, dudes, that's going to be it from me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.